Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our entitled people. In today's episode, Karen declares war on my parents for cutting a tree down on their own property. Rude lady and entitled grandma are rude to my 9-year-old sister. It's only 3:57 p.m. You guys close at 4 p.m. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Karen declares war on my parents for cutting a tree down on their own property. I, 25M, have been living away from home ever since graduating from college. My parents both retired recently, and last summer they decided to use some of the money they'd saved up to finally build their dream retirement home in New Orleans, where they've been living for the past 10 years. I come from a very tight-knit family, so I still talk to my parents every week, and they were so excited when they said they'd already picked out the location where they wanted the house built. It was an empty lot in a nice neighborhood where a house had been demolished not long before due to age, and the previous owner, who was pretty wealthy and owned numerous properties around the city, decided that the lot was worth more without the house on it. Anyway, my parents snapped it up as soon as it came on the market, but not long after construction began, they realized that they were building their dream house right next door to the lair of a wild Karen. The trouble started when my parents had to cut down a large oak tree that sat in the front of the lot. It was a real beauty too, one of those big southern live oaks, and although they didn't want to, they knew they had to remove it because it was in the way. No one likes to cut down a big, beautiful tree, and believe me, if there was a way to avoid doing it without impeding the construction, my parents would have taken it. So they called a tree removal service, and the tree was soon gone. Well, a few days after the tree had been cut down, my dad was on the property talking to some of the construction guys and making sure everything was going smoothly. He was going back to his car when he saw a woman in her late 50s walk out of the house next door and head to her mailbox. My dad, let's call him John, is a pretty chill and laid-back guy who likes to be on good terms with everyone, so he walked over and introduced himself. "Hi," he said, holding out his hand. "My name's John, and my wife and I are going to be your neighbors once our house is finished. I just wanted to come over and say hi and introduce myself. It's nice to meet you. What's your name?" Karen glanced at the extended hand, then looked up at my dad and glared at him. "My name is none of your business," she snapped. "I'm not going to shake your hand because of COVID, and even if there was no COVID, I still wouldn't shake your hand because you people ruined my life when you cut down my tree. I still can't believe how selfish you are. You should both be ashamed of yourselves." My dad was taken aback by this and pointed out that Karen already had a nice big oak tree in her backyard, but Karen ignored him and stalked back inside her house. She never explained why she thought she was the owner of the tree that had been cut down, not once, and whenever my parents asked about it, she refused to answer. I guess it's just one of those things we'll never know, like what really happened to the lost Roanoke colony or the fate of D.B. Cooper. My parents met some of their other neighbors later that day, including a nice elderly couple who lived in the other house next door, Karen's, and when my dad told them what happened, the neighbors said Karen was like that to everyone and no one in the neighborhood liked her. They also said that Karen had been nasty to them for a long time, and they were in the process of selling their house because they couldn't stand living next door to her anymore. Karen soon began living up to her reputation. For months, whenever my parents would visit the house to see how the construction was coming along, she'd find something to complain or confront them about. One time she said the construction workers were being too loud and threatened to call the police, even though it was the middle of the day. Another time she said that the construction company was using illegal immigrants as cheap labor and threatened to call IC and have the whole project shut down. My dad mentioned this to the owner of the company, and the owner sent Karen a formal letter threatening a lawsuit if she tried. I don't know if there were any actual grounds for a lawsuit, but the threat must have worked because IC never showed up. Oh, And then there was the time she tried to have my parents' car towed for illegal parking when they parked by the curb of their still unfinished house. The first my parents knew about this was when the tow truck showed up, but the driver took one look at where my parents' car was parked and told Karen he'd send her a bill for wasting his time if she called him again. I could go on. Karen did everything she could think of try and interfere. She was absolutely relentless in her crusade to avenge a tree she never even owned. Happily, the house was completed despite her best efforts, and my parents finally moved in not long after the holidays. My mom told me later that she caught Karen watching them bitterly from her window as they were taking some of their boxes inside. She was concerned that Karen might keep going and try something else, but I guess Karen was too busy wallowing in self-pity over her failure or something because things were actually quiet for a while. But a few weeks ago, things changed. New Orleans has had some really bad weather lately due to the winter storms that are battering much of the southern U.S. right now, and one night, one of those storms was so powerful that it knocked over the tree in Karen's backyard. It missed falling onto her house, but it didn't miss falling onto her shiny new Jaguar and crushing it like a beer can. According to my folks, Karen didn't discover what happened until the following morning. When she came outside and saw the pile of scrap metal that used to be her car, she threw back her head and let out a primal scream like something out of The Exorcist. She had to pay a tree removal service to get rid of the tree, and then she had to pay for a tow truck to get rid of the car too, and then she had to get a rental car too. Karen put her property up for sale and moved out not long afterward. Everyone in the neighborhood was glad to see her go, and my parents enjoyed watching her drive off into the sunset from the front porch of their amazing new house. Edit. For clarification, Karen did not sell her house right away. She put it on the market and moved out of it as soon as she could. I don't know where she is now, but I'm guessing she's staying somewhere else while she waits for someone to buy the property. I don't know if anyone has bought it yet, but since there's a pandemic going on, I think she'll be waiting for some time. I guess the tree didn't like her any better than the neighbors did. RIP, that tree took one for the team to better the neighborhood. My mom once wanted to put up a large decorative fence right on the property line, which meant she had to get the permission of our elderly neighbors. They were generally nice people but didn't like change and said that they wouldn't agree. Mom said that was fine, but instead of spending the money on the fence, she cut down the huge oak tree in our backyard that she always hated but our neighbors loved because it provided shade to the west-facing side of their house. Mom got her fence and the tree stayed. Your mom is a boss. Revenge is so sweet. Tree karma is the best karma. The house backing onto my old family home cut down a massive tree that was on their property. It was annoying. But you know what we did? Nothing. Because it wasn't our business. The tree was fed up with loss of his beloved significant other tree and was living with a Karen. All the depression and annoyance was too much and made a final effort to annoy and piss of his owner as he joined his wife. Rude lady and entitled grandma are rude to my 9-year-old sister. This happened in a face painting line at an event at the park. My 9-year-old sister and some other girls were waiting patiently in line for a long time, and when they were finally at the front, the face painter let the girl behind them all go before the three of them. She claimed the line started there, but they were waiting in line the whole time, and she clearly saw them there because she was standing right next to her. Before this, though, there were kids standing at the same place they were in line at the front, and she let them go. Just suddenly she decided that the line started behind them. The little girl's grandma argued with me so that they could go first. I said, they've been waiting in time the whole time, and she said, so has she, and just put her on the chair. We were waiting in line in front of them the whole time since the back of the line, so clearly she knew that we should have gone before them. I don't know why they both did this since it was clearly unfair and might have been racially motivated, since the all girls she cut were Asian and the little girl who she let go first was white. It was super frustrating and made them all sad. The face painter did this? You might complain to whoever was putting on the event. Surely the face painter wasn't just setting up shop independently, but there had to be someone who was collecting a fee for the day, and it very well may have been the local city government. If you explain to them that there was a vendor who was discriminating against one race in favor of another, you might help get them disqualified to participate in future events. Sorry you and your sister had to experience this. A lot of vendors have to pay in order to rent the space at an event. Opie should definitely complain to the organizers. I'd let the event organizer know about the racist face painter. That's a disgrace. I'd have asked, sorry, do you know each other? Or is this just your everyday racism? This is how it should be handled. Call out the racism. Don't let it hide. It's like mold and will die in the sun. The face painter could be mistaken, but the grandma knew. Can't stand people like that. Yeah, that type of stuff happened with my kids, and my Asian wife put them in their place. Seems like some people think they can walk all over Asians. Very prejudicial. Let people know how they are in the event space so they can blacklist them. Prevent them from renting their spots. It's only 3:57 p.m. You guys close at 4 p.m. This just happened and I'm just tired and annoyed. So at 3:57 p.m., we had a man who looked to be in his 40s show up 3/2 minutes before we closed in a black BMW. I go up to greet him and ask what can we help him with? He asks us if we're closed. I looked at my phone to see the time. So I asked him, how many bags of recycling? He replies, only 3. I ask him to show me. Whilst he want to get the bag, I go up to my supervisor and tell him what's going on. He comes back and shows a huge black garbage bag that would take longer than 3 minutes. My supervisor tells me, oh hell nah, not with that big of a bag. I turn around to see the bag. I go up to tell him we can't help him as it was now 3:59 p.m. He then starts arguing with me asking why are we closed right now if it's not 4 p.m. I told him, we have to close the register and count the money as we're a state-run program. He then starts arguing again with me saying that this whole time we've been talking we could have sorted his stuff. By now it's 4:01 p.m. I tell him, it's 4:01 p.m. sir, we're closed. He then continues to argue with me saying, well how come your hours say 10 and dash 4 p.m.? It should say 10 a.m. to 3:55 p.m. He then tries to say, I know it's not your fault, but why couldn't you just let me in and get my stuff sorted? I've been coming here for 15 years. Which is a huge lie as I've been working here for 2 years and never seen him. He then starts ranting about my supervisor saying shit about him. I told him, the supervisor can hear you. He was still ranting before he got back into his black BMW and drove away. My supervisor told me, I've never seen him before and I've been working here for a long time and that he can go cry to his mommy about it. He didn't care of type of supervisor. I used to work for a grocery store chain and the signs all stated clearly that we close at 12 o'clock midnight. We would constantly get customers who would come in at 11:55 p.m. and that was fine. If you're going to quickly get a couple of items and go, right? But no, they want to go up and down the aisles and do a weekly shop. We would announce it over the loudspeakers. Attention shoppers, we will be closing in 5 minutes. Please bring your items to the register. Thank you. Nope and nah. I got in before you closed so I can do my shopping for however long I want.
Yeah, no.
Cashiers have to turn in their tills by 12:15 at the latest. There will literally be no cashier to check you out. And the worst part of this is them leaving their shopping for you to put back on the shelves and complaining about you wasting their time. Yeah. Having worked multiple kinds of retail-ish jobs, I don't go anywhere near closing time. I know how badly it pissed me off and how much work it was having to redo things we'd already done. It's inconsiderate and rude. I used to work in a phone shop and some bloke ducked under the shutters as the manager was lowering them. He had a right shit-eating grin on his face as if he'd beat the system or something. Manager just told him to get out or shed get security. I don't know what goes through these people's heads. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.